So in the early days, when you first started Fruition Consulting, what really do you think differentiated yourself and your company? Because you're just starting out on your own.
Right.
What separated you from other companies that enabled you to then grow and become successful?
It's funny you mention that, Mike, because a lot of times when people start companies, they feel like if I just start it, it'll happen,
Yeah.
but it doesn't work like that at all.
Yeah.
It's all about relationships, and I learned that quickly. So basically, I started to leverage relationships, people that I knew, people, and you start to use the 6 degrees of separation. Somebody knows someone, and basically that was it. That was my differentiator, basically who I knew and my character. People knew me as a person. If they liked me, they felt like I had enough integrity to do a good job.
Right.
For their company.
You know, it's interesting, relationships seem to continuously come back as a key foundation to the success of a startup, of new businesses.
That's it.
What is it? Tell us exactly, what does Fruition Consulting do for its clients?
Gotcha. We have two sides of our house. One, we do IT consulting when it comes to project management, change management on the IT side, and some strategic planning. On the training side, we do leadership development when it comes to, obviously, leadership, change, and diversity. Times past, we had just a litany of training offerings, but over the past year or so, we've really scaled down and really focused in on leadership and morale in the workplace, because we find that as we go in and do projects from an IT side, we see a lot of relationships that go awry because of just a lack of good leadership and individuals not knowing how to build good morale in the workplace. And good morale obviously leads into good productivity. Right.
I know that you are quite an accomplished motivational speaker, just on sheer numbers alone. How many speeches you give every year? It's in the hundreds. It's amazing to me. Tell us about speaking to groups of people and motivating groups of people on the subject of leadership. I mean, why do you do it, and what does it do for them?
I found a couple of years back that I had an affinity for teaching, and then I wanted to be more than a facilitator. I wanted to reach more of a mass of people, so I became a corporate speaker. And the same thing, the name Wade Younger meant nothing to anyone until I began to get references and build some character within the industry. After that, it went from there. As far as what we try to drive is, we realize within industries, within organizations, within our economy, it's all about leadership. That's where it starts. Yeah. Great presidents, great leaders throughout our history, it starts with great leadership, and that's why I have such a passion for it. When you have a small company of 3 or a large company in the hundreds of thousands, it starts with leadership.
Yeah. I know that you had a very, I think, unique approach to developing one of your leadership seminars around the book, Who Moved My Cheese?
Right.
Could you tell us the story about how you took what would be an apparent opportunity and really turn that into a successful seminar series?
Gotcha. Back in 1998, I read Who Moved My Cheese, like many people, and I just thought it was a phenomenal take on just a subject that you couldn't form it any better, because you couldn't be prejudiced over mice and small people in a maze, but it told the story perfectly. After I read the book, I contacted Dr. Spencer Johnson in regards to the book and asked him, was he interested in doing some seminars, and he was in the process of, because he does speaking as well, and wanted to know if we could go into that business with him, because we were doing seminars anyway. From there, we teamed up with another company out of Boston that he used to form that courseware. And from there, we just started to do organizations as far as training is concerned, because actually the book title within itself just started to sell. Obviously, you read the book, I want to know more. How do we get from point A to point B within our maze? Yeah. So that gave us an opportunity to get some good exposure in regards to who Fruition was. For a long time there, we were just known as, cheese facilitators, but after that, we kind of got away from that. In fact, we developed our own change course entitled Change, Challenge, and Innovation, because we find within companies it's all about the change process. It's a challenge, but it's about innovating your new self as you move forward.
Right. And speaking of books, I know that you yourself have authored a couple of books. Tell us about, I'm interested to know not only what the books are about, but the writing experience. What was that like?
hard. It really was. Time consuming. I am not a natural writer, but I felt like I had something to say. My two books you're referring to is Tunnels, Bridges, and Ladders. Tunnels, Bridges, and Ladders have to do with change. Tunnels, the tunnel represents the change within yourself. No one sees it. It's just it's a maturation that has to take place within yourself. The bridge represents from where you were to where you want to be, and then the ladder represents the upward in regards to performance, in regards to return on your effort is concerned. My other book is Don't Flinch, and Don't Flinch has to do with self-discipline, because I find whether it's an entrepreneurial effort or an athlete, everyone needs a sense of self-discipline, but how do you get it? I mean, what makes Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods who they are? It comes from a self-discipline standpoint.
Through all this, did you have a mentor? I mean, you've moved on from a career to, in corporate America to IT, to training, to motivational speaking, to authoring books. I mean, you have really covered the gamut in terms of the whole business acumen and all that. Was there anybody there that was guiding you or serving as a mentor? Where did you go for advice?
Good question. A couple of people. Excuse me. I had a teacher in 11th grade, Mr. Royster. One of the things he said was profound to me. And he said, when you graduate high school, there are going to be hundreds of thousands of individuals graduating the same time you graduate, going after the same jobs you want to go after. And I'm like, wow, really? So it's like, I really get on the ball, huh? Yeah, you better. And then it moved from there to a couple of college professors that really just showed a belief in me. As I began my business, it was actually a couple of customers that had faith in fruition and what I was trying to accomplish. And we didn't do everything right at first. I mean, how could we? But those individuals helped. And if you remind me saying, at the time when we moved from Atlanta into the Carolinas, you were an inspiration to that because of just being around who you are and what you were doing in regards to at the time of your company.
To say that.
Appreciate it.
I know you are an advocate of diversity, and there's quite an emerging subject matter around all the variations about what diversity means within our society and within our business society. Could you explain to us what's your view on it, first of all, and why does diversity in the workplace make good business sense?
Gotcha. Diversity within the workplace will happen whether a company addresses it or not. Just for the maturation of who we are as far as a nation is concerned. When you think of just sheer population and what's going to happen in the workforce. In the 50s and 60s, it was a concern of women getting into the workforce. It went from there to the different minority groups. So the thing is, well, how do you take advantage of it? Well, it's all about recruitment and retaining good potential. That's what it's all about. Looking past skin color, looking past creed and origin, and going after what it's all about. And what it's all about right now for us is being productive in the workplace. How do we do that? Well, it's understanding, getting away from old mindsets of if I see something, it has to be negative, if you will. If we can get past that from a leadership standpoint, it'll trickle down within our organizations, and all of a sudden you'll find that your Walmarts and your Federal Expresses, if you will, have embraced it. As a result, they're doing very well. You'll find an organization, if they do not embrace diversity from a dollar standpoint, because that's what it's all about, they will not do well in that regard.
And do you find, I know that you're also specifically around what's known as supply chain diversity, meaning those companies that buy from other companies, assuring that they also buy from companies that are led by minority and women-owned businesses. Is that something that you specialize in, and tell us about that?
For a long time, Mike, we didn't. I sort of felt like I wanted to go into companies and take our organization into companies by sheer our talent and our references. But as I began to understand the supply chain diversity programs, it works for everyone's advantage, because when you look at a company, a bank institute, for example, the company, its employees and its vendors should look like its customer base. So if its customer base is diverse, the vendors and the employees should be diverse as well. So we help that process.
That's fantastic.